on CSS stuff. Now, what we will do is our starter code is complete. Now, we will come on the interaction with the smart contract and focus on that. So, first of all, let me explain you how loader can be made in React.js. So, just give it a name as loader and set loader and use state. So now we will give it as boolean. So let us give it as true, because first on initializing of app, or when our app is opening, then we want the loading to be true, and then you will tell that how a variable can decide the loading of React, because we have not seen any other this thing like in any other application that has used loading. So what we can do is we can simply define a if statement, and you know that we are in a function. So in a function, if we return a thing, so the function gets over. So we can return it like if loading, if loading, we can return it like if loading. So what is loading? Loader. So if loader, so its value is true now. So then return in div loading dot. Now you will see that it must show loading. So and it will show loading. So like yes, because loading value is set to true. So what we can do is, like when we are entering the load blockchain data, what we can do, set loader to true, because we want the loading to be happen, because we don't want to scare our user by just throwing some error or something, or by letting someone. So and if the everybody goes right, then we will set loader false. So if the data is correct and blockchain is working, so it will be false and it will return a navbar. So you can see now. So if I'll refresh it for a fraction of second, it will show you loading, and then it is showing you the navbar, because it is firstly it was going into this condition, but when this condition became false, then it is returning this and navbar. Now we will interact with the smart contract. So first of all, we have to store this the smart contract instance for interacting with the smart contract in a state variable. So we will define a use state variable, const election set election sm smart contract, and set election sm and use state, and we want to just this will be a we can also console.log it. We have also console.log it, but we have not seen it in console. We can see that it's a large object of functions. So let me go to browser, Control Shift I, and console. Go me here, information, and yeah, you can see a contract object is here, and it's throwing. It has a lot of different function. It has address of the smart contract and JSON interfaces, and it has all the function of candidate counts, votes, payable functions, etc. So we will just, so it will automatically, so if we don't give anything in the use state, then it will automatically adjust according to the variable demand. So what we will do is just set election sm to election, cool, so that we can also interact and send this to another components, and other components can also use this election instance that is used for interacting smart contract. So let us go to smart contract. So first we have to candidates. So first we will fetch the candidates. Now we will define the we will define the variable candidate one, and we will use a await. So in web3 we have to call the functions stop, start, not start, stop. So in web3 we so in smart contract we have to interact with the methods. So we are calling mapping here. So mapping is also a method that we have when we interacted with the smart contract in remix id. So it was a method because we were inputting one and it was throwing Donald Trump, and if we are inputting two then it was throwing Barack Obama. So just define a we will define a variable candidate one and give it await. So we will call the election because we are calling a method. Mapping is also a method. Then we will write methods dot, what is the name of method here, candidates. Just copy it so that you don't get a compilation error. Copy paste it, and it also demands the input. So what input we have to give? We have to give integer. So just input 1 because mapping is a call function. We just call and it uses not any guess. So we will just type call because it's a viewable function. It don't require the transaction. Like if we are voting, then it is a payable function, then it will require voting. It will require some gas and transaction. So now we will candidate 2 and await. Similarly election dot methods and candidates, just copy it from here. And let me remind you one thing, like you may say that we are setting the election smart contract here. So but in locally in this if statement, this election will be used to fetch everything, but on outside or any other function or any other component we have to send the election smart contract. Then we can use this, not this, we can use this to send it. And now we can, for testing, just console.log candidate 1 and candidate 2. So just save it and we will go to browser election. We will go to browser and we will, yeah, you can see the two, it is throwing us true results. So yeah, it is showing that the ID of this is 1, it is Donald Trump, and vote is 0. Haha, boom, here we go. So yeah, it is showing, oh, I think we have wrote Donald Trump. Okay, let me, it's an error. Now it will show us, yeah, it's returning us Barack Obama. Great, we are on great move. Now we have to fetch the name of the candidate and the vote count and the ID. So what we will do is just simply const candidate 1 ID equal to await, not await, candidate 1 dot ID, and let console.log it, log it, candidate ID, candidate 1 dot ID. So that it's just for testing purposes. It's important, like, yeah, it is, I think it's fetching. So you can similarly do all the things. So let me do it. We have defined all the variables. So let me delete this console.log statements just for testing purposes. Now what we can do is uh, we can we can set the candidate 1 and candidate 2 const. uh, Let me define a state variable candidate 1 and set candidate 1 so that we can use in other components. Let me name it as candidate 2, set candidate 2, and let me just set the candidates. Set candidate 1 to candidate 1, yeah, and set candidate 2 as candidate 2, just simple. I think I'm mistaken in the spelling. Candidate 1. Now we have set the candidates, just compile and just compiled. So it will be showing this because we are not using this, but we will be using in the following video. Now what we have to fetch again. Now let us show these two candidates and their vote counts in a systematic table. Now what we are gonna do is we are gonna define a new component. Let me name it as bossy not body.js and RACFE. Okay, it's very easy. Start. Now what we will do is we will define we will install a extension named prettier. I have installed it. So what it does is it keeps the code clean and neat. So we will just paste a simple code that I have defined. Just paste it so you can see that how the formatting has done by prettier. It has beautified our code and cleaned image, and you can see that this is the basic UI that I have defined. Like I have a HR tag and a h1 and just a table. Now we will put the information in the table and in all the your address and various other things. Now we will be needing a lot of informations. Now what we will be needing. So we will be needing candidate 1. So just candidate 1 and give name as candidate 1. Just copy it from above so that you don't get compilation error. Just paste it here. Now candidate 2, just paste it here and don't forget to write 2. Just save it, body.js, and no. Just copy it from that page so that you don't get compilation error. Just it is very similar like what we did in navbar.js, and copy it from here and paste it from here. Paste it here. Now save it. Now what we have to show. Firstly here we have to show the candidate name. We have to show name here, candidate ID. So we can show it as like just copy paste 1 dot id so that we can get id. We have defined the variables, but I thought that we can also do the thing here. Just give in the parenthesis so that in React got to know that we are using a state variable. Copy paste 1 dot name. Similarly in this we'll do similarly, copy paste dot vote count. Just paste this, and yeah, you can see the correct information. Name is Donald Trump, votes are 0, ID is 1. Similarly, I'll do it for the another candidate. Just copy paste it and give it just Control D and click the Control D 3 times. Oh no, just write 2. So you can see that we are getting both the information of our candidates, and now we have to make a button and show that whether I have voted or not, or this address has voted or not. Now what we will do is, here we will define a form in which we will give options like this, whether to choose Donald Trump or Barack Obama, and according to this you can run this function vote count, and this will call a transaction and it will record the transaction in the smart contract so that you can't vote again and again. So we will define the function later. First we will define the this form UI. So I have copied this UI from a website, W3 schools. You can also copy. So just I'll paste it over cast your vote. Under the cast your vote, just paste it as it is. And so what I have done is, here is the select statement, that is the pop-up that is getting us the options that whether to choose 1 or 2. So what we can do is, we can use the parenthesis to let the React know that we want to share some information. We can show the ID or we can show the name, candidate2.name, save it, and now you can see that whether do you want to vote Donald Trump or Barack Obama. And now I'll do 2 things. Like, now what we will do is, like, we will show the person who is voting that whom the person has selected finally. So we have defined the 2 conditions, but let me define an on change to it, so that the value of vote candidate here, we can change it by dynamically getting the value from here. So let us apply the on change. Let us start. Now we will define a state, use state. So I have already imported. We will define a state variable. So what we will do is const, we will define it as candidate and set candidate, so that we can change the value. We can set the candidate whom we are selecting and use state, and we can give it as string. So now let me define the on change function. And now don't panic, because on change is different in another languages, but we have to define a function of on change. So how we will define it as, so we will just simply write it as const on change. So I in my sense it's a boilerplate code, because I use it again and again as it is. So what I'll do is, I'll set the candidate and e dot target dot value, and the candidate is stored in e dot target dot value. When we call the on change, it gets stored in e dot target dot value. Now our candidate is stored. Now what we will do is, now our candidate is stored, but we have to we are defining a form. So similarly, as we defined the on change, we will define on submit, but in small case. On larger case, S is for JSS functions, inbuilt functions. You can see that it is in the inbuilt functions. On submit. Now similarly, you can define a function on submit, and you can give it name as this. Okay, my bad. Now what you can do is you have to call a function of a transaction in smart contract of a function that we defined earlier, vote function. So we have to define a vote function. So what we will do is, first of all, let me close this. Node modules are very big. So first of all, what we will do is go into app.js and let us define a function that will call the vote function from smart contract. So let us define the vote candidate, name it as vote candidate. So I think it is defined earlier. No, const vote candidate async, obviously. We will use the await keyword, and we will use the election smart contract that we have defined in the earlier in this video, and we have to call the vote method. So we will call vote method from methods, and we have to input the candidate ID. And whenever we call the function that needs a transaction, because in call function we write simply as call, but it is not a call function, so we will write the sent and send. So which account we are sending to, so we will just simply from, so which account we are sending from, so from the present account, we can set it as current account. It is correct. We can just do it a little refactor. Method dot vote dot send, and now we can call a await synchronized function, like if on transaction hash, and if the transaction hash is completed, then it must, I think, show a console.log that the function has ran successfully. So we can show that like console.log of successfully ran. Also, we also forgot to do one thing like set loading. We have to set loading to true when we are running this function, so that nobody can run another function, and set loading to false when the function has been ran successfully. So it's the logic is correct, like yeah. And also we have to export this vote candidate in the body, because we will call it from there, because the function the button we have defined it from their form. So we will just paste it, and we have defined our function in the vote candidate in app.js. So we will just copy, and we will go into body, and we will just copy paste it, because we have to use it. Now we forgot one thing. In our UI we have to set the candidate which we are voting. So we will just give it a parenthesis and paste the state variable that we have defined, that is changing on change, and giving is the value 1 if we have selected candidate dot name 1, and value 2 if we have selected candidate 2. So if we select Donald Trump, then it will giving 1, and if we are voting Barack Obama, then it is giving 2. So I also forgot to give my address, so let me give you my account. And what we have to do is, I have to export this from into this component, and I can save Okay, I have not defined account over here, so I'll define it. Okay. Okay, now it is compiling. It's just giving me error. I can just, because we are not using these, that's why it's giving warnings. Now it's not giving me any warnings. Now body dot just now you can see that it is showing us our address, same as on the top, and the form is also working, but the function we have to define. So we have earlier defined the on submit. Now we will define it as prevent default. We write it that way because we want to check that either the form is null or it is having some value. If the form is null, then it will not be executed from here on the statement. Now we will check that if the candidate the candidate that we have defined above dot id not equal to 0. Okay, and if it is not equal to 0, then it will be 1, either 1 or 2. Then we can call the function vote candidate, and we want to input the vote candidate in number because candidate is in string. So we will write as this, and we will just paste this as candidate, just this. Okay, e is not okay, my bad. So it's defined. Else we can show it as window dot alert. There is error in submission. It will go. Now we are using this address. Now we will call the Donald Trump. We will vote for Barack Obama. So let us call So loading has been working. So loading has been working because we have set the loading to true whenever the function is called. So we will confirm the transaction. The transaction is from account to this smart contract, and this is the address of smart contract that is deployed on Ganache. So let us confirm, and so if we will refresh, then boom, here we go. So the vote of Barack Obama has been increased to 1. So let us vote for Donald Trump, and it must show error to us now because we are voting again, but we have voted once. So it's giving me error, and so our smart contract is working great. So we will just reject it. So let me change the account so that we can make another. Yes, this one account. We have to refresh it. So let's vote for Donald Trump. So it's not showing me error because I have not voted from this account. So our transaction is confirmed. So let me refresh it. So boom, here we go. So Donald Trump and Barack Obama both are winning. So you can also apply different kinds of filters, like you can compare it, like who is winning, and you can also show it here, like Barack Obama or Donald Trump is giving. Just to take the example, don't take the election seriously. So this is all about the tutorial. Now we will move toward the deployment stage.
Now